The Commonwealth of Nations, often simply referred to as the Commonwealth, is an international association of 56 member states, the vast majority of which are former territories of the British Empire from which it developed. The chief institutions of the organization are the Commonwealth Secretariat, which focuses on intergovernmental aspects, and the Commonwealth Foundation, which focuses on non-governmental relations among member states. Numerous organizations are associated with and operate within the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth dates back to the first half of the 20th century with the decolonization of the British Empire through increased self-governance of its territories. It was originally created as the British Commonwealth of Nations through the Balfour Declaration at the 1926 Imperial Conference, and formalised by the United Kingdom through the Statute of Westminster in 1931. The current Commonwealth of Nations was formally constituted by the London Declaration in 1949, which modernized the community and established the member states as free and equal. The head of the Commonwealth is Charles III. He is king of 15 member states, known as the Commonwealth realms, while 36 other members are republics, and 5 others have different monarchs. Although he became head upon the death of his mother, Elizabeth II, the position is not technically hereditary. Member states have no legal obligations to one another but are connected through their use of the English language and historical cultural ties. Citizenship of a Commonwealth country affords benefits in some member countries, particularly in the United Kingdom, and Commonwealth countries are represented to one another by high commissions rather than embassies. The Commonwealth Charter defines their shared values of democracy, human rights, and the rule of law, as promoted by the quadrennial Commonwealth Games. Queen Elizabeth II, in her address to Canada on Dominion Day in 1959, pointed out that the Confederation of Canada on July 1, 1867 had been the birth of the first independent country within the British Empire. She declared, "So, it also marks the beginning of that free association of independent states which is now known as the Commonwealth of Nations." As long ago as 1884, Lord Rosebery, while visiting Australia, had described the changing British Empire, as some of its colonies became more independent, as a Commonwealth of Nations. Conferences of British and colonial prime ministers occurred periodically from the first one in 1887, leading to the creation of the Imperial Conferences in 1911. The Commonwealth developed from the Imperial Conferences. A specific proposal was presented by Jan Smuts in 1917 when he coined the term the British Commonwealth of Nations and envisioned the future constitutional relations and readjustments in essence at the Paris Peace Conference of 1919, attended by delegates from the Dominions as well as the United Kingdom. The term first received imperial statutory recognition in the Anglo-Irish Treaty of 1921, when the term British Commonwealth of Nations was substituted for British Empire in the wording of the oath taken by members of Parliament of the Irish Free State. In the Balfour Declaration at the 1926 Imperial Conference, the United Kingdom and its dominions agreed they were equal in status, in no way subordinate one to another in any aspect of their domestic or external affairs, though united by common allegiance to the Crown, and freely associated as members of the British Commonwealth of Nations. The term Commonwealth was officially adopted to describe the community. These aspects to the relationship were formalised by the Statute of Westminster in 1931, which applied to Canada without the need for ratification, but Australia, New Zealand, and Newfoundland had to ratify the statute for it to take effect. Newfoundland never did, as due to economic hardship and the need for financial assistance from London. Newfoundland voluntarily accepted the suspension of self-government in 1934 and governance reverted to direct control from London. Newfoundland later joined Canada as its 10th province in 1949. Australia and New Zealand ratified the statute in 1942 and 1947 respectively. Although the Union of South Africa was not among the dominions that needed to adopt the Statute of Westminster for it to take effect, 2 laws, the Status of the Union Act, 1934, and the Royal Executive Functions and Seals Act, 1934 were passed by the Parliament of South Africa to confirm South Africa's status as a sovereign state, and to incorporate the Statute of Westminster into the law of South Africa. After the Second World War ended, the British Empire was gradually dismantled. Most of its components have become independent countries, whether Commonwealth realms or republics, and members of the Commonwealth. There remain the 14 mainly self-governing British overseas territories which retain some political association with the United Kingdom. In April 1949, following the London Declaration, the word British was dropped from the title of the Commonwealth to reflect its changing nature. Burma, Myanmar since 1989, and Aden, now part of the Yemen, are the only states that were British colonies at the time of the war not to have joined the Commonwealth upon independence. Former British protectorates and mandates that did not become members of the Commonwealth are Egypt, independent in 1922, Iraq, 1932, Transjordan, 1946, Palestine, part of which became the State of Israel in 1948, Sudan, 1956, British Somaliland, which united with the former Italian Somaliland in 1960 to form the Somali Republic, Kuwait, 1961, Bahrain, 1971, Oman, 1971, Qatar, 1971, and the United Arab Emirates, 1971. The post-war Commonwealth was given a fresh mission by Queen Elizabeth II in her Christmas Day 1953 broadcast, in which she envisioned the Commonwealth as an entirely new conception, built on the highest qualities of the spirit of man, friendship, loyalty, and the desire for freedom and peace. However, the British Treasury was so weak that it could not operate independently of the United States. The loss of defense and financial roles, furthermore, undermined Joseph Chamberlain's early 20th century vision of a world empire that could combine imperial preference, mutual defense, and social growth. In addition, the United Kingdom's cosmopolitan role in world affairs became increasingly limited, especially with the losses of India and Singapore. While British politicians at first hoped that the Commonwealth would preserve and project British influence, they gradually lost their enthusiasm, argues Krishnan Srinivasan. Early enthusiasm waned as British policies came under fire at Commonwealth meetings. Public opinion became troubled as immigration from non-white member states became large-scale. On April 18, 1949, Ireland formally became a republic in accordance with the Irish Republic of Ireland Act 1948, in doing so, it also formally left the Commonwealth. While Ireland had not actively participated in the Commonwealth since the early 1930s, other dominions wished to become republics without losing Commonwealth ties. The issue came to a head in April 1949 at a Commonwealth Prime Ministers meeting in London. Under the London Declaration, as drafted by V.K. Krishna Menon, India agreed, when it became a republic in January 1950, it would remain in the Commonwealth and accept the British sovereign as a symbol of the free association of its independent member nations and as such the head of the Commonwealth. Upon hearing this, King George VI told Menon, "So, I become as such." Some other Commonwealth countries that have since become republics have chosen to leave, while others, such as Guyana, Mauritius, and Dominica, have remained members. The London Declaration is often seen as marking the beginning of the modern Commonwealth. Following India's precedent, other nations became republics, or constitutional monarchies with their own monarchs. While some countries retain the same monarch as the United Kingdom, their monarchies developed differently and soon became essentially independent of the British monarchy. The monarch is regarded as a separate legal personality in each realm, even though the same person is monarch of each realm. Planners in the interwar period, like Lord Davies, who had also taken a prominent part in building up the League of Nations Union in the United Kingdom, in 1932 founded the new Commonwealth Society, of whose British section Winston Churchill became the president. The term New Commonwealth gained usage in the UK, especially in the 1960s and 1970s, to refer to recently decolonised countries, predominantly non-white and developing. It was often used in debates about immigration from these countries. The United Kingdom and the pre-1945 dominions became informally known as the Old Commonwealth, or more pointedly as the White Commonwealth, in reference to what had been known as the White Dominions. At a time when Germany and France, together with Belgium, Italy, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands, were planning what later became the European Union, and newly independent African countries were joining the Commonwealth, new ideas were floated to prevent the United Kingdom from becoming isolated in economic affairs. British trade with the Commonwealth was 4 times larger than its trade with Europe. In 1956 and 1957 the British government under Prime Minister Anthony Eden considered a Plan G to create a European free trade zone while also protecting the favoured status of the Commonwealth. The United Kingdom also considered inviting Scandinavian and other European countries to join the Commonwealth, so that it would become a major economic common market. At the time of the Suez Crisis in 1956, in the face of colonial unrest and international tensions, French Prime Minister Guy Mollet proposed to British Prime Minister Anthony Eden that their 2 countries be joined in a union. When that proposal was turned down, Mollet suggested that France join the Commonwealth, possibly with a common citizenship arrangement on the Irish basis. These ideas faded away with the end of the Suez Crisis. The Commonwealth's objectives were first outlined in the 1971 Singapore Declaration, which committed the Commonwealth to the institution of world peace, promotion of representative democracy and individual liberty, the pursuit of equality and opposition to racism, the fight against poverty, ignorance, and disease, and free trade. To these were added opposition to discrimination on the basis of gender by the Lusaka Declaration of 1979, and environmental sustainability by the Langkawi Declaration of 1989. These objectives were reinforced by the Harare Declaration in 1991. The Commonwealth's current highest priority aims are on the promotion of democracy and development, as outlined in the 2003 Aso Rock Declaration, which built on those in Singapore and Harare and clarified their terms of reference, stating, "We are committed to democracy, good governance, human rights, gender equality, and a more equitable sharing of the benefits of globalization." The Commonwealth website lists its areas of work as democracy, economics, education, gender, governance, human rights, law, small states, sport, sustainability, and youth. In October 2010, a leaked memo from the Secretary-General instructing staff not to speak out on human rights was published, leading to accusations that the Commonwealth was not being vocal enough on its core values. The Commonwealth Heads of Government Meeting 2011 considered a report by a Commonwealth Eminent Persons Group, EPG, panel which asserted that the organization had lost its relevance and was decaying due to the lack of a mechanism to censure member countries when they violated human rights or democratic norms. The panel made 106 urgent recommendations including the adoption of a Charter of the Commonwealth, the creation of a new Commissioner on the Rule of Law, Democracy, and Human Rights to track persistent human rights abuses and allegations of political repression by Commonwealth member states, recommendations for the repeal of laws against homosexuality in 41 Commonwealth states and a ban on forced marriage. The failure to release the report, or accept its recommendations for reforms in the area of human rights, democracy, and the rule of law, was described as a disgrace by former British Foreign Secretary Malcolm Rivkind, a member of the EPG, who told a press conference, "The Commonwealth faces a very significant problem. It's not a problem of hostility or antagonism, it's more of a problem of indifference. Its purpose is being questioned, its relevance is being questioned, and part of that is because its commitment to enforce the values for which it stands is becoming ambiguous in the eyes of many member states. The Commonwealth is not a private club of the governments or the Secretariat. It belongs to the people of the Commonwealth." In the end, 2/3 of the EPG's 106 urgently recommended reforms were referred to study groups, an act described by one EPG member as having them kicked into the long grass. There was no agreement to create the recommended position of Human Rights Commissioner, instead a ministerial management group was empowered with enforcement. The group includes alleged human rights offenders. It was agreed to develop a charter of values for the Commonwealth without any decision on how compliance with its principles would be enforced. The result of the effort was that a new Charter of the Commonwealth was signed by Queen Elizabeth II on March 11, 2013 at Marlborough House, which opposes all forms of discrimination, whether rooted in gender, race, color, creed, political belief, or other grounds. During the Second World War, the British Empire played a major role in supporting British finances. Foreign exchange reserves were pooled in London, to be used to fight the war. In effect, the United Kingdom procured £2.3 billion, of which £1.3 billion was from British India. The debt was held in the form of British government securities and became known as sterling balances. By 1950, India, Pakistan and Ceylon had spent much of their sterling, while other countries accumulated more. The sterling area included all of the Commonwealth except for Canada, together with some smaller countries, especially in the Persian Gulf. They held their foreign exchange in sterling, protecting that currency from runs and facilitating trade and investment inside the Commonwealth. It was a formal relationship with fixed exchange rates, periodic meetings at Commonwealth summits to coordinate trade policy, and domestic economic policies. The United Kingdom ran a trade surplus, and the other countries were mostly producers of raw materials sold to the United Kingdom. The commercial rationale was gradually less attractive to the Commonwealth, however. Access to the growing London capital market remained an important advantage to the newly independent nations. As the United Kingdom moved increasingly close to Europe, however, the long-term ties began to be in doubt. By 1961, with a sluggish economy, the United Kingdom attempted to join the European Economic Community, but this was repeatedly vetoed by Charles de Gaulle. Entry was finally achieved in 1973. Queen Elizabeth was one of the few remaining links between the UK and the Commonwealth. Historian Ben Pimlott argues that joining Europe constituted the most decisive step yet in the progress of severance of familial ties between the United Kingdom and its former empire. It reduced the remaining links to sentimental and cultural ones, and legal niceties. The newly independent countries of Africa and Asia concentrated on their own internal political and economic development, and sometimes their role in the Cold War. The United States, international agencies, and the Soviet Union became important players, and the British role receded. While there was opposition to British entry into the EEC from many countries, such as Australia, others preferred the economic advantages brought by British access to the common market. The historic ties between the former Dominion nations and the United Kingdom were rapidly fraying. The Canadian economy increasingly focused on trade with the United States, and not on trade with the United Kingdom or other Commonwealth nations. Internal Canadian disputes revolved around the growing American cultural and economic presence, and the strong force of Quebec nationalism. In 1964, the maple leaf flag replaced the Canadian ensign, with Gregory Johnson describing it as the last gasp of empire. Australia and New Zealand were generally opposed to the United Kingdom's entry and exerted considerable influence on the eventual terms of accession in 1972, for which the United Kingdom agreed to transitional arrangements and monetary compensation to protect important export markets. Russell Ward summarizes the period in economic terms. In fact, the United Kingdom, as Australia's chief trading partner, was being very rapidly replaced just at this time by the United States and an economically resurgent Japan, but most people were scarcely aware of this. It was feared that British entry into the common market was bound to mean abolition, or at least scaling down, of preferential tariff arrangements for Australians' goods. Although the Commonwealth does not have a multilateral trade agreement, research by the Royal Commonwealth Society has shown that trade with another Commonwealth member is up to 50% more than with a non-member on average, with smaller and less wealthy states having a higher propensity to trade within the Commonwealth. At the 2005 summit in Malta, the heads of government endorsed pursuing free trade among Commonwealth members on a bilateral basis. Following its vote in June 2016 to leave the EU, some in the United Kingdom suggested the Commonwealth as an alternative to its membership in the European Union. However, it is far from clear that this would either offer sufficient economic benefit to replace the impact of leaving the EU or be acceptable to other member states. Although the EU is already in the process of negotiating free trade agreements with many Commonwealth countries such as India and Canada, It took the EU almost 10 years to come to an agreement with Canada, due to the challenge associated with achieving the necessary EU-wide approvals. On December 17, 2021, following the United Kingdom's exit from the European Union, Australia and the United Kingdom signed the Australia-United Kingdom Free Trade Agreement, which on ratification eliminated tariffs and increased opportunities for movement between the two countries. Commonwealth countries share many links outside government, with over 100 non-governmental organizations, notably for sport, culture, education, law and charity claiming to operate on a Commonwealth-wide basis. The Commonwealth Secretariat regulates formal accreditation with the Commonwealth through its Accreditation Committee. The admittance criteria includes upholding a commitment to the Commonwealth Charter. There are currently approximately 80 organizations holding formal accreditation. These include the Association of Commonwealth Universities, which manages the Commonwealth Scholarship allowing students to study in other Commonwealth countries, and the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, which links together over 180 Commonwealth parliaments. The Commonwealth Foundation is an intergovernmental organization, resourced by and reporting to Commonwealth governments, and guided by Commonwealth values and priorities. Its mandate is to strengthen civil society in the achievement of Commonwealth priorities, democracy and good governance, respect for human rights and gender equality, poverty eradication, people-centered and sustainable development, and to promote arts and culture. The foundation was established in 1965 by the heads of government. Admittance is open to all members of the Commonwealth, and in December 2008, stood at 46 out of the 53 member countries. Associate membership, which is open to associated states or overseas territories of member governments, has been granted to Gibraltar. 2005 saw celebrations for the Foundation's 40th anniversary. The Foundation is headquartered in Marlborough House, Pall Mall, London. Regular liaison and cooperation between the Secretariat and the Foundation is in place. The Foundation continues to serve the broad purposes for which it was established as written in the Memorandum of Understanding. The Commonwealth Games, a multi-sport event, is held every 4 years. The 2018 Commonwealth Games were held in Gold Coast, Australia, and 2022 Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. The 2026 Commonwealth Games are currently without a host. As well as the usual athletic disciplines, as at the Summer Olympic Games, the Games include sports particularly popular in the Commonwealth, such as bowls, netball, and rugby sevens. Started in 1930 as the Empire Games, the Games were founded on the Olympic model of amateurism, but were deliberately designed to be the friendly games with the goal of promoting relations between Commonwealth countries and celebrating their shared sporting and cultural heritage. The Games are the Commonwealth's most visible activity, and interest in the operation of the Commonwealth increases greatly when the Games are held. There is controversy over whether the Games and sport generally should be involved in the Commonwealth's wider political concerns. The 1977 Gleneagles Agreement was signed to commit Commonwealth countries to combat apartheid through discouraging sporting contact with South Africa, which was not then a member, whilst the 1986 Games were boycotted by most African, Asian, and Caribbean countries for the failure of other countries to enforce the Gleneagles Agreement. The Commonwealth War Graves Commission, CWGC, is responsible for maintaining the war graves of 1.7 million service personnel who died in the First and Second World Wars fighting for Commonwealth member states. Founded in 1917, as the Imperial War Graves Commission, the Commission has constructed 2,500 war cemeteries, and maintains individual graves at another 20,000 sites around the world. The vast majority of the latter are civilian cemeteries in the United Kingdom. In 1998, the CWGC made the records of its buried available online to facilitate easier searching. Commonwealth war cemeteries often feature similar horticulture and architecture, with larger cemeteries being home to a cross of sacrifice and stone of remembrance. The CWGC is notable for marking the graves identically, regardless of the rank, country of origin, race, or religion of the buried. It is funded by voluntary agreement by 6 Commonwealth members, in proportion to the nationality of the casualties in the graves maintained, with 75% of the funding coming from the United Kingdom. The Commonwealth of Learning, COL, is an intergovernmental organization created by the heads of government to encourage the development and sharing of open learning/distance education knowledge, resources, and technologies. COL is helping developing nations improve access to quality education and training. The Commonwealth Local Government Forum, CLGF, is a global local government organization, bringing together local authorities, their national associations and the ministries responsible for local government in the member countries of the Commonwealth. CLGF works with national and local governments to support the development of democratic values and good local governance and is the associated organization officially recognized by Commonwealth heads of government as the representative body for local government in the Commonwealth. CLGF is unique in bringing together central, provincial, and local spheres of government involved in local government policy and decision-making. CLGF members include local government associations, individual local authorities, ministries dealing with local government and research, and professional organizations who work with local government. Practitioner-to-practitioner support is at the core of CLGF's work across the Commonwealth and within the region, using CLGF's own members to support others both within and between regions. CLGF is a member of the Global Task Force of Local and Regional Governments, the formal partner of the UN Major Group of Local Authorities. Commonwealth countries share a common culture in sports and literature as well as widespread similarities in their political systems. These commonalities are the result of the Commonwealth's heritage, having developed out of the British Empire. Symbols of the Commonwealth include the English language, the Commonwealth flag and Commonwealth Day. Many Commonwealth nations play similar sports that are considered quintessentially British in character, rooted in and developed under British rule or hegemony, including cricket, football, rugby, field hockey, and netball. These ties are particularly strong between the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa across rugby union, cricket, netball, and field hockey, with Australia in rugby league, with the Caribbean nations in cricket and netball, and with the Indian subcontinent in cricket and hockey. Canada, by contrast, is dominated by North American sports, including baseball instead of cricket, basketball rather than netball, ice hockey rather than field hockey and Canadian football, rather than rugby union or league. Canada does, however, maintain small enthusiastic communities in all the more traditional Commonwealth sports, having reached the World Cup in each of them, and is the home place of the Commonwealth Games, hosting the inaugural edition in Hamilton in 1930. This shared sporting landscape has led to the development of friendly national rivalries between the main sporting nations that have often defined their relations with each other, and in the cases of India, Australia, and New Zealand, have played a major part in defining their emerging national character, in cricket, rugby league, and rugby union. Indeed, said rivalries preserved close ties by providing a constant in international relationships, even as the empire transformed into the Commonwealth. Externally, playing these sports is seen to be a sign of sharing a certain Commonwealth culture. The adoption of cricket at schools in Rwanda is seen as symbolic of the country's move towards Commonwealth membership. The Commonwealth Games, a quadrennial multi-sports event held in the middle year of an Olympic cycle, is the most visible demonstration of these sporting ties. The Games include standard multi-sports disciplines like athletics, swimming, gymnastics, and cycling, but also includes sports popular in the Commonwealth that are distinct to the Games such as netball, squash and lawn bowls. They are also more avowedly political than events like the Olympics, promoting what are seen as Commonwealth values. Historically, a history of shared military endeavor was celebrated and promoted, parasport and disability sport is fully integrated, and the Commonwealth Games Federation has publicly backed the rights of LGBT people, despite the continuing criminalization of homosexuality in many Commonwealth countries. The most recent edition of the Games was held in 2022 in Birmingham, England. The shared history of British presence has produced a substantial body of writing in many languages, known as Commonwealth literature. The Association for Commonwealth Literature and Language Studies has 11 branches worldwide and holds an international conference every 3 years. In 1987, the Commonwealth Foundation established the annual Commonwealth Writers' Prize to encourage and reward the upsurge of new Commonwealth fiction and ensure that works of merit reach a wider audience outside their country of origin. Prizes are awarded for the best book and best first book in the Commonwealth. There are also regional prizes for the best book and best first book in each of 4 regions. Although not officially affiliated with the Commonwealth, the prestigious annual Man Booker Prize, one of the highest honors in literature, used to be awarded only to authors from Commonwealth countries or former members such as Ireland and Zimbabwe. Since 2014, however, writers of any nationality have been eligible for the prize providing that they write originally in English and their novels are published by established publishers in the United Kingdom. Today, the Commonwealth Foundation awards the annual Commonwealth Short Story Prize. There had been a few important works in English prior to 1950 from the then British Empire. From 1950 on, a significant number of writers from the countries of the Commonwealth began gaining international recognition, including some who migrated to the United Kingdom. The South African writer Olive Schreiner's famous novel The Story of an African Farm was published in 1883 and New Zealander Catherine Mansfield published her first collection of short stories, In a German Pension, in 1911. The first major novelist, writing in English, from the Indian subcontinent, R.K. Narayan, began publishing in England in the 1930s, thanks to the encouragement of English novelist Graham Greene. Caribbean writer Jean Rhys's writing career began as early as 1928, though her most famous work, Wide Sargasso Sea, was not published until 1966. South Africa's Alan Paton's famous cry, The Beloved Country dates from 1948. Doris Lessing from southern Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, was a dominant presence in the English literary scene, frequently publishing from 1950 on throughout the 20th century. She won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 2007. Salman Rushdie is another post-Second World War writer from the former British colonies who permanently settled in the United Kingdom. Rushdie achieved fame with Midnight's Children, 1981. His most controversial novel, The Satanic Verses, 1989, was inspired in part by the life of Muhammad. V.S. Naipaul, born 1932, born in Trinidad, was another immigrant, who wrote among other things A Bend in the River, 1979. Naipaul won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 2001. Many other Commonwealth writers have achieved an international reputation for works in English, including Nigerian novelist Chinua Achebe, and playwright Wole Soyinka. Soyinka won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1986, as did South African novelist Nadine Gordimer in 1995. Other South African writers in English are novelist J. M. Coetzee, Nobel Prize 2003, and playwright Athol Fugard. Kenya's most internationally renowned author is Ngugi wa Thiong'o, who has written novels, plays and short stories in English. Poet Derek Walcott, from St. Lucia in the Caribbean, was another Nobel Prize winner in 1992. An Australian, Patrick White, a major novelist in this period, whose first work was published in 1939, won in 1973. Other noteworthy Australian writers at the end of this period are poet Leigh Murray, and novelist Peter Carey, who is one of only 4 writers to have won the Booker Prize twice. While, due to their shared constitutional histories, most countries in the Commonwealth have outwardly similar legal and political systems, several of them, including Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Fiji, Gambia, Grenada, Nigeria, Malawi, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Sierra Leone, Uganda, have experienced one-party rule, civilian or military dictatorships or destructive civil wars, and many still suffer from rampant corruption and poor governance despite the fact that the Commonwealth requires its members to be functioning democracies that respect human rights and the rule of law. The Commonwealth leadership was criticized for admitting Gabon as a member at the 2022 Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Kigali, Rwanda, a country with poor human rights record, despite the fact that Gabon had been governed for 56 years by the kleptocratic Bongo family, until they were overthrown in a coup in 2023. Most Commonwealth countries have the bicameral Westminster system of parliamentary democracy. The Commonwealth Parliamentary Association facilitates cooperation between legislatures across the Commonwealth, and the Commonwealth Local Government Forum promotes good governance amongst local government officials. Most Commonwealth members use common law, modelled on English law. The Latimer House principles adopted in 2003 reflect the separation of powers. The Judicial Committee of the Privy Council is the Supreme Court of 14 Commonwealth countries, including the Cook Islands and Niue, which are under the realm of New Zealand, though New Zealand itself does not make appeals to the Privy Council. The Commonwealth has adopted a number of symbols that represent the association of its members. The English language is recognized as a symbol of the members' heritage, as well as being considered a symbol of the Commonwealth. Recognition of it as the means of Commonwealth communication is a prerequisite for Commonwealth membership. The flag of the Commonwealth consists of the symbol of the Commonwealth Secretariat, a gold globe surrounded by emanating rays, on a dark blue field. It was designed for the second COGME in 1973, and officially adopted on March 26, 1976. 1976 also saw the organization agree to a common date on which to commemorate Commonwealth Day, the second Monday in March, having developed separately on different dates from Empire Day celebrations. In 2009, to mark the 60th anniversary of the founding of the Commonwealth, the Royal Commonwealth Society commissioned a poll of public opinion in 7 of the member states: Australia, Canada, India, Jamaica, Malaysia, South Africa, and the United Kingdom. It found that most people in these countries were largely ignorant of the Commonwealth's activities, aside from the Commonwealth Games, and indifferent toward its future. Support for the Commonwealth was twice as high in developing countries as in developed countries. It was lowest in the United Kingdom. Also, to mark the 60th anniversary, Diamond Jubilee, of the Commonwealth in 2009, the Commonwealth Secretariat commissioned Paul Carroll to compose the Commonwealth Anthem. The lyrics of the anthem are taken from the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The Commonwealth has published the anthem, performed by the Commonwealth Youth Orchestra, with and without an introductory narrative. Thank you for watching this video.